It is the completeness of the destruction of eastern Aleppo that remains absolutely shocking. The apparent disregard of Syrian and Russian forces to distinguish between civilians and fighters, the targeting of hospitals, the willingness to finish the place off completely. It's all prompted commentators for months now to compare Aleppo to another site of Russian military ferocity, Grozny in Chechnya. There, in separate wars, Moscow fought a separatist uprising which threatened the stability of the country and had, in some of its parts, an Islamic foundation unacceptable to the Kremlin. Over time, Grozny was flattened. It visibly shrank. People ran away to wherever they could go, and both sides in the conflict were accused of atrocities. Are then the same tactics being used by the Russians in Syria?
I think that at the level of tactics and at the operational level, there are very strong similarities between the bombardment of Aleppo and the bombardment of Grozny, which were both sort of really literally bombed to the ground, and people were trapped in the same way as we see that in Aleppo. We also see the use of militias and local forces to try to gain control over the terrain.
The man who ended up destroying the separatists in Chechnya was the Russian president. Mr. Putin on one occasion said he would waste them in the outhouse. A major Western accusation against him is that just as he used Chechnya to establish his credentials as a strongman at home, so he stands accused of using Syria to put his country back on a global stage.
What Putin is really wanting to make sure is that there isn't sort of a jihadist or sort of an Islamist like ISIS regime taking control over Damascus and most of the sort of the rest of Syria. And he was trying to achieve the same in the North Caucasus, to literally obliterate any kind of jihadist insurgency.
Still, there are obvious differences which both the Syrian government and the Russians have been eager to point out. This video, for instance, is of Western Aleppo, shot for the tourism ministry. No damage here whatsoever, of course, implicitly suggesting a targeted, highly specific military campaign. The music from the Game of Thrones series is designed to humiliate the opponents of President Assad even more. And what of Grozny, now under the rule of the pro-Kremlin hardliner Ramzan Kadyrov? All political or military opposition has vanished, and Grozny is transformed. In years to come, perhaps, eastern Aleppo will have been bulldozed and rebuilt in the same way, its inhabitants more to the liking of the Assad government. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera.